Everybody, welcome again to the second group of debates that we're having tonight. Will be the sheriffs that are candidates that are running. We'll also have the county clerks and the coroners. So that's on the plates for tonight. And at this time, I would like to have you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I'd like to invite Barbara Hill up here for prayer.
I'll begin in Hebrew, but I'll translate. Avinu Hashemayim, Heavenly Father, Melech Hashemayim et Haaretz, ruler of heaven and earth. We ask you to bless and guide those who govern our community, who are present in this gathering tonight. Enlighten and enable them to rule according to your holy commands as they are led by your Holy Spirit. Give them wisdom, honesty, integrity, courage, strength, and good judgment, that we all may enjoy peace and prosperity at home and protection from our enemies within and without. Please make these candidates stronger to do your work, not to advance their own purposes, but to serve you here in Sheridan County. Please hear us now for the sake of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus our Messiah, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Well, welcome to the Sheridan County Republican Party primary debates. Tonight, we're going to start with the county clerk's candidates, and then we will go to the county coroners. And then I kind of made an executive decision because of how much interest the sheriff's debate has that I've received about it. So we're going to do the sheriff's debate last. So here's how this evening is going to work. It's going to be a little bit different than the last debate that we did, in that we only have two candidates for each debate. And so the speaking times will be as follows. We've already flipped a coin to figure out who's going to start first. And then Speaker 1 will get 3 minutes. Speaker 2 will get 3 minutes. Then Speaker 1 will get 2 minutes. Speaker 2 will get 3 minutes for the first rebuttal, and for the last rebuttal, the person who spoke first will get 1 minute. And then we will swap for the second topic. Now, you'll notice that the topics for tonight's debate are not questions. They're statements. And the reason you do that in a debate is if you ask a question, you run the risk of the answer being, well, yes, and that's it. If you make it a statement, well, then the candidate has to take a position on whatever it is and hopefully explain themselves. You know, as the party of Lincoln, we have a very long history of political debates. Lincoln himself and Stephen Douglas debated an entire summer over one topic, that of slavery. Now, I doubt very seriously that anything that we're going to talk about tonight would be as momentous as that one. But still, it's important for voters to be able to hear directly from the candidates themselves and to force them to defend their beliefs and their positions. And so that's what we're going to do here tonight. So before the debate, we flipped a coin, and the clerks are going to start first. Now, it's a little bit interesting for this first one because we only have one candidate that chose to show up. And so, as per my initial invitation letter, if one candidate doesn't show up, your opponent gets half the time allotted for the debate to use however they wish. And so if Ms. Temple wants to speak for 15 minutes, or if she wants to take questions from the crowd, it's her time to do it as she chooses. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Christine Temple.
Thank you. So I guess some of you know me. There are many of you that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting. So I'd kind of just like to start and read through just an introduction so y'all get an idea of who I am, what my qualifications, my background, and all of those kinds of things are. So again, my name is Christine Temple. 7 years ago, my husband, James, and 2 of our 3 kids moved here to Sheridan to reunite with my family in Wyoming and to start our forever journey here in the state of Wyoming. My life experiences have prepared me to be the county clerk. My bachelor's degree is in political science with an interdisciplinary study in Middle Eastern politics. My first area into politics was I was an intern for Congressman Buck McKeon, who was the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee as well as the House Education Committee. From there, I worked for the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, supporting victim witness and witness protection for victims of felony crimes, specifically domestic violence and child abuse. I actually worked on the O.J. Simpson trial. Following that, I went to work with Federal Investigation Services Division of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. I was a federal background investigator who conducted investigations for high-level security clearance adjudications. The career allowed me to work across several states, which was a huge blessing, as well as in Washington, D.C. It allowed me firsthand experience with government at all levels, from military, private contractors, to the highest levels of our government. I was promoted then to an investigative field manager where I supervised more than 300 federal agents over 8 states in the southwestern United States, as well as Hawaii and Guam. I also ran the temporary duty, the TDY program. We dumped hundreds of federal investigators into Washington, D.C., and I was able to head that up to clear out a severe backlog of security clearance investigations that were affecting national security. That was great because I got to coordinate massive efforts with military, government, private sector organizations. Moving to Wyoming, I was a branch manager and a security director for a regional credit union, so going into finance with a whole new adventure. And then I switched over as branch manager to one of the large international banks here as well. So throughout my career, I've been entrusted with sensitive information, complex responsibility, large-scale operations, financial oversight, creation and implementation of large-scale budgets, and leading teams to accomplish critical missions. Those experiences have prepared me to manage the county clerk's office with integrity, efficiency, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. The reason I'm asking for your support is I think the county deserves a clerk with proven leadership, extensive government background and experience, strong management skills, and a commitment to serving our community, especially with honesty and accountability. The reasons I chose to run were several. One is election integrity. I'm very passionate, having lived in several states. Seeing firsthand a lot of the things that go on around the country has made me very passionate, and I started off in politics. So ensuring our records that we are remaining compliant where we need to be. Statutes are not suggestions, they're laws, and we need to follow them. Today we had an issue. We had a statutory failure on posting public notification for testing our machines today. We need to make sure that we are 100% always compliant, and that's very important to me because if we can't be trusted to maintain and follow all basic statutes, how can any of our community trust us to do all of the other things within the clerk's office as well? So the other reason is we've had a lot of issues with documentation of voter rolls, not purging them correctly, not updating them correctly. A lot of the candidates have had false information sent out, bad precinct walking lists, and all of those things. So I think we have to absolutely consistently 100% of the time get all of the information correct. That's the job that you need to be able to do. I also believe we need to really create an office environment of teamwork and respect. The turnover within the clerk's office is horrific over the last few years. And we need to work really hard at taking care of our team and our community at that level first, making sure our employees are in an environment of servant leadership where it's respect and help to build that, and retention will also then help give us specialized people and a crew that then can also ensure that we've got election integrity and all of the other things that we worked so hard for. I also want to create a better environment of teamwork with other elected officials within the courthouse itself. I think is incredibly important, not having any kind of that combative nature, as well as working for the Secretary of State's office. They are the chief executive officer of our state. I think having a really good working relationship is a benefit to all of us, for sure, pardon me. The other thing is budget. We have had 3 years of audits with severe material discrepancies and repeatable discrepancies. Government doesn't have any money. It's our money. And we have got to, as elected officials, be a better steward of that money. We should not be paying tens of thousands to outsource to third-party vendors our ballots, when we've got a chief election officer here that should be making those ballots for us, because that opens things up to fraud and integrity issues. We should also make sure that on all of our budget, we're really looking at everything clearly, and especially if we can all have a discrepancy that we need to look at and focus and go, okay, we need to work on that, but then we have to actually work on it. Having repeatable ones is unacceptable. It's your money, not the government's money, and we've got to be a steward of that. So those are kind of the main reasons why I chose to run, and I am asking for your support. I've got brochures, it's got my cell phone, so any questions at all, I'm available anytime to answer any questions. You will not get the runaround from me. I will answer it directly. I'm happy to answer a couple of questions to the best of my ability here. I assume I've still got time to do so, Mr. Moderator. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try and answer a couple of them here now. Thank you so very much, and please, oh, yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that you said saving money to outside vendors to purchase our ballots. A concern coming up for us is election machines themselves now are outdated and cannot be certified properly. We're using them anyway in this upcoming election, which is a concern. But they are going to start looking at appropriating funds down in Cheyenne. And we'd like to suggest that rather than send tens of millions out of state to an out-of-state vendor, that we come up with a better solution to run our elections in state. Some people really would love to go to 100% hand count, which is doable.
Not to interrupt, but do you have a question, Elena?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a question?
I want to know if she would be in favor of paying people in our own communities to hand count ballots. We'd still end up with savings over sending tens of millions out of state to a vendor. Would that be a solution?
She's asking if I would be in favor of hand counts, 100% hand counts within our county elections. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, let me make it more clear. Rather than sending tens of millions of dollars to out-of-state vendors to purchase brand new machines, can we not pay people inside our own communities to hand count ballots? And we could pay them a pretty penny to hand count ballots, train them up, hand count the ballots, and that money then stays
Elena.
in our own community. Are you
Okay,
in
thank
favor of that?
Okay, so 2 answers to that question. The first part is I have to follow, as the county clerk, the statute that's in place. My personal opinion on it, my personal preference, isn't the will of the people. I've got to follow the statute and what is in place. Having said that, We do have a couple of new things, and I know, Elena, you're familiar with them this year. So statute 2210-108 is the new procedure, one of the new procedures for preparing machines and going through and making sure that we are running through all of the systems properly, testing them properly. I did talk to the elections director for the state about some of these very things as well, of are our machines up to date? And it is something that they themselves are looking at working on. So as far as hand counting, we had SF 113, which is going to allow a 5% hand count audit. It'll be selected by the Secretary of State on the Wednesday following the election. He will choose 2 different areas for a 5% hand count. One will be one of the federal races, or the federal race. The other one is going to be the one for, we'll pick a state one, but that'll come from their office. Then the county clerks are going to have to do up to as close as they possibly can that 5% hand count. I think it's an excellent opportunity for people in the community to kind of experience what that's going to be like, see how it goes, and all of those things. And then at that point, it's people who are passionate like yourself going out and working and trying to work with legislators or anybody else. If it's the will of the people to do so, then that'll end up being what happens, whether it's a change in statute or anything else that comes from it. In which case, then, obviously, as the clerk, you follow those statutes. The other thing that they are doing separately for the machines is a separate amendment as well that is going to allow a 5% minimum of an audit of the actual voting machines themselves, a minimum of 1 machine, but for Sheridan County, we have more machines than some of the counties. However, that is a minimum. So if I'm elected clerk, I will absolutely 100% do the pre-testing with all of the machines, including the express vote machines, and I will do 100% of the tabulation audits after the elections, without question. That 5% is a minimum requirement. And I think at a bare minimum, we do have those gray areas, and we can absolutely do 100% on that. As far as the hand counting, I think they've got a good step for what they're doing to start testing it out. And then going forward from that part, it's about following statute and then waiting for our voters to kind of speak up, whether it's through an amendment or working with legislators to update and see if they want more hand counting than what we're going to be testing currently. Does that answer your question? Okay. Is there anybody else? Okay. Thank you so much. And like I said, I'm available if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. So we were going to do a straw poll at the conclusion of each debate, but I don't think we really need to do that in this case. So here's how that's going to work. At the conclusion of our next debate, which will be for the candidates for county coroner, we have a teller committee, and they're going to distribute ballots to you for you to decide who won the debate. And then at some point during the second debate, we'll have the results for that. And here's why we're doing that. So that at the end of the debate, you know who won, we know who won, and that way we don't have 2 candidates on social media claiming that they won the debate. So if I could have the candidates for county coroner come up, we'll flip a coin to see who's going to speak first. Well, we're going to flip a coin first. All right, so one more time, here's how this is going to work. Speaker 1 will have 3 minutes. Speaker 2 will have 3 minutes. Speaker 1 will have 2 minutes, and then Speaker 2 will have 3 minutes. And for the final rebuttal, the person who speaks first on the topic will get 1 minute. And so we'll begin here with our first question. Yeah, our first question, and you'll get 1 minute to introduce yourself. But our committee, when we were writing the topics, we really want to know why you're running for office. So if you could just take a minute, introduce yourself, and tell the audience why it is that you're running. And give me a minute, and I'll turn your mic on.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Bird. I've been a deputy coroner for 20 years, Johnson County and Sheridan County. Right out of mortuary school in Johnson County, I was asked to be a medic, an EMT intermediate, and also in the coroner's office. And that's where I received my training right off, and was very well trained in that respect. And then I left Wyoming and came back, and with Kane Funeral Home, and PJ was running as the coroner. So I was very active, engaged in that. And over the 20 years, I've had a lot of experience on how to run that office and do it in a manner that most people would find a sense of comfort and especially professionalism in every aspect of it, but led with kindness in every way. So there's a few different other reasons, but I'm done.
All right, 1 minute, Dr. Bird. Please answer the question, why are you running?
Good evening, fellow Republicans, citizens of Sheridan County. I am your current county coroner, and the reason I'm running is the mission's not over yet. You elected me 4 years ago because you had confidence in me being the coroner. We have reconstructed the coroner's office to where it nationally meets all the standards. Now, I'll quickly go through some of the things that you won't know because I'll probably never get a chance to say it. I'm a member of the Wyoming Coroners Association. That's important. I'm also on the board of standards. Let me say that again, on the board of standards of coroners. I'm a adjunct member of the National Association of Medical Examiners. I'm a member of the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. And I would appreciate your vote to re-elect me as your coroner.
Okay, so as we did the last time, all of the topics ahead of time are put into this bowl. And I mixed them all up, so not even I know exactly which topic is coming when. And so for our first topic, the coroner's obligation ends when the death certificate is signed. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Sessions.
In running a case to best determine the cause and the manner of death, it does take some time to get to that, utilizing all the resources that are available when you start to work upon a scene. Filing of the document, signing the death certificate is definitely the final stamp of the cause and the manner of death to move forward. The best way to approach a coroner's call is to be very open-minded as you attend and you're at the house or wherever you're at. You're working well with the other departments that are there. Best to determine how to bring justice to something that can't speak for itself. And that's the key for that coroner and that office, is to give an answer for that can't. And utilizing every resources that you have to get to that point by using the medical community. Law enforcement, they do so much of the background of checking and knocking on doors and finding out to best determine that. Sometimes you have to look further into it and have a medical examiner look into it because it's just unclear. There's not the right answer. So being able to walk through that process and know the conditions and the signs of death is a key ingredient to be able to fulfill this office in a manner that brings justice to the deceased and in a manner that the family, you help them through the most difficult time in their lives as you carry them through. So it's more than just signing on the death certificate of what the cause of death is. There's so much more involved at times. A lot of the times there's a lot of medical history that helps you determine that as you interact and talk with the doctors and the medical staff to help you come to the understanding of what you feel is the best of what happened, with support from those that are around that have been a part of that as well. So being able to have the funeral home over the last 60 to 70 years, it's been back and forth, back and forth. So being able to have a facility and a morgue away from the funeral home is key to be able to fulfill that office in a manner that brings respect, loyalty, and two separate entities that will bring that. Okay, was that 30? You got 30 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry. So I know that that seems to be over a year's experience that it went back and forth, back and forth. So having that away from the funeral home is such a wonderful thing. I was 100% all on board for that to happen, for the offices to run independently and let the families and the individuals who have to take care of and do this make their own choices. And that's it.
3 minutes, Dr. Bird.
So if I'm reading your question right, you were asking about the death certificate. That is a statute document that has to be signed and filed with vital records. Does that mean that the case is over? It's a document, it's signed, it's a certificate, but does that mean that the case is over? If the cases are always never going to be over, because if we find something, we can always go back and amend it, amend the death certificate in the investigation. But let's be clear, we are medical legal death investigators. We are trained. I've been trained by the best. All you do is got to Google some of the best forensic scientists in the country. I was under their mentorship, okay? We have reconstructed, rebuilt the office to where it meets state, statutory, and national standards.
Mr. Sessions, 2 minutes.
The standard, of course, is definitely the most important thing of presenting that office in a professional way. And I would definitely present that in the utmost respect and professionalism. As a medic, EMT, I got to know the anatomy. I graduated from mortuary school in Chicago in '95, and for that experience of knowing the anatomy and knowing the body and seeing hundreds of autopsies and to be able to know the conditions of the body on certain aspects of it is key for helping determine that. I have done more cases than Dr. Bird out in the public over my 20 years. I've been in the field and have seen and worked from start to finish in countless experiences that I feel that I am definitely more than qualified than him in moving this forward.
Okay, thank you. So for the audience, one other thing, often in debates, you'll see a curveball thrown at the candidates. And one of those is I've given all of the candidates 1 minute that they could use at any point during the debate. And Dr. Bird has chosen to use his 1 minute now. So in total, you have 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you, David. The conversation really has been talking around the body this, the body that, knowing the anatomy of this. I think one thing you got to realize is when the coroner's called, it's a crime scene. It's a scene. So we're death investigators. What we do is not only do we know our jurisdiction is the body. That's by statute. But we're working with law enforcement because there's a scene. And we need to find out the whole total investigation. So we're not only looking at the body, we know the body's there. That's our jurisdiction. We can always investigate the body there or at the facility. But to get the correct information, you have to be a death investigator and ask the question, what happened? How? Why? Look at the scene. Interview the officers. Interview the members if there was a witness. Canvass the scene. These are all training questions that you have to know. Thank you.
And for our final rebuttal, 1 minute, Mr. Sessions.
100%. You have to work with law enforcement. You have to work with those to bring the scene to a more open view. 100% of being able to work well with them and to use their knowledge and their experience to Make sure that it's not a homicide is probably the most important thing, but every time you go out on a call, the sheriff or the PD or the highway patrol, any law enforcement's going to be on scene. So having a viable, workable relationship with them is key in using the experience that they have and with what you have to better come to the determining the cause and the matter and the conditions of the body. I think it's important more than anything than when you present yourself in not only a professional way, but a very respectful way in every aspect, whoever you're with.
Thank you, gentlemen. And for our second topic for this debate, oh, this is a good one. There is no need for Sheridan County to hire a pathologist. And we'll go first to Mr. Byrd.
Dr. Byrd, please. Thank you. That's a very good question, because I just got off a meeting today with the Coroners Association, and that was one of the topics that we're talking. Should we, as an organization, should we pursue trying to get a state pathologist? We have a subcommittee, and I'm on part of that subcommittee or a legislative committee. So the question is, do we want to do that? Well, in order to do that, we have to approach the legislators, which we're in budget session this year, and they're going to be in the regular session. So the committee that we need to present this to is the Judiciary Committee. So we have to present ourselves, but the route we want to take is really try to see if we can go through the Department of Health. So we're trying to see if we can partner up with it. This is a big project. It's got a lot of spokes on the wheel. I can't give you a direct answer. Yes, Wyoming needs to have not one pathologist, two pathologists, centrally located, so the 23 counties can travel to those state pathologists, or if one of them wants to be mobile, that they can go to that county and use their facility, if they have a proper facility to do autopsies. Sheridan County has built a new facility. You as the taxpayers, it's your house, you paid for it. It is fully equipped and ready to go to do autopsies. We're trying to get our pathologists that we use to come down and do some autopsies. But they're busy enough as it is, it's very hard for them to do that. But the answer to that is yes, we're going to try to revisit that, but we know how difficult it was to get a state pathologist here. Just for numbers, it takes about $3 million a year to staff a state pathologist. They don't come cheap. There's a lot of wheels on the spokes to this. We just have to introduce it to the Judiciary Committee again, start from ground up and see where it goes until they can fund it. I think they will gear us through the Department of Health, and I think we're okay with that. And that's kind of where we are as an update from the meeting that we had with the Coroners Association. So yes, we only have one pathologist in the whole state, and that's Dr. Frost over in Fremont County. So if you want to utilize that, then you need to drive over to Fremont County and make an appointment. On a good day, that's a long way to drive from here over the mountain. On a bad day, you wouldn't even want to make that trip.
3 minutes, Mr. Sessions.
Yeah, I think it would be great to have a forensic pathologist here in Sheridan. That was really the direction of putting that new building out there, is to have the morgue away from the funeral homes and to be able to see. Sheridan is such a beautiful place, and who wouldn't want to be here? And Dr. Bennett, a forensic pathologist for 40 years, and he serves all the counties in the whole state, was going to be that forensic pathologist. And he's since moved, and he's not going to be able to come back. He doesn't live here anymore. But having a forensic pathologist in town would be awesome. Then you don't have all the travel expense to go to Billings to do the examinations when they need to be. The cost of $3 million, I don't know where that comes from, but being able to utilize your facility and have someone come to this beautiful area and utilize the other counties that are around our area to help support it. And there's 2 traveling companies that have forensic pathologists that go all over the country, and I haven't entertained it, but I think it's a viable opportunity for me to, if I am elected, to open up a dialogue with these other forensic pathologists and see if Sheridan might be one to help to land them here to serve our county, and then as well as all the other counties that have to go out as well. So it would be great. It's not a necessity. Dr. Bird says he's a forensic pathologist. He can't do autopsies. It's a different license, to be able to do that. So he has to take his out of Sheridan County anyway. So being able to utilize the resources and the experience that I have and the people that I've been able to build relationships over the years, and with good direction, maybe I'd be able to find a forensic pathologist that would be able to make a living here, and then as well as to help serve our state. We got 23 counties, and we're the smallest one. All the states around us have 60 counties, so they're bigger. They have that opportunity, but we live in a beautiful place, and it might be a possibility to have somebody come and be here as well. So, yeah, it'd be great.
2 minutes, Dr. Bird.
Okay. So, trying to put a forensic pathology and utilize some of these fly-by-night places. And I shouldn't call them fly-by-night. That's maybe the wrong thing to do. I have contacted all of them. The problem that you have is it's very expensive because they're brokers. They supply pathologists. Okay, so you're working for the contractor to supply you with a pathologist. Okay, now, your pool of pathologists, you need to interview them, and I mean really interview them. Because why are they doing that? Why aren't they associated with a medical examiner's office? Well, if you look into some of the past of some of them, the resumes aren't as pretty as you think. And you have to say, is this the person you want doing your autopsies here in Wyoming, Sheridan County? No, I'm not going to have the taxpayers in the county be at a liability. What I'm looking for is a top rate. And we almost had one. We almost had one. He was a homegrown pathologist, grew up in Goshen County, and he really wanted to move his family here. And we were almost there. There was just one mistake. He forgot to sit down with his family and say, this is what we want to do. Okay. And he was going to leave a job, $576,000 a year. So, I mean, we can go to the pools. There's one out of Vegas called Forensic Pathology Service. There's a county that's using them. They're contracts. So, what I'm saying is we have to be aware of what we're getting into.
3 minutes, Mr. Sessions.
Dr. Bennett was the forensic pathologist who Sheridan County was going to perform those autopsies. He's been a forensic pathologist for over 40 years. And of course, to bring up something early in his career, to define his career is just ridiculous. He has served all the counties in Sheridan County, and to really think about if we want to really look at the credentials of somebody. They're an expert in their field, and Dr. Bennett was that expert in that field. So we missed out on him. We're not going to be able to get him. I've already talked to him. Kind of a bad deal, but having a forensic pathologist is important. It would be awesome, but it's not the most important thing to have. You can still utilize, and knowing Dr. Bennett, he serves Campbell County and Natrona County as a 24-call service to run anything that a scenario by him of what you're doing with, to have his wisdom and his experience as an expert in his field. And he does that for very minimal. And what that would do is save the county considerable amount of money of having to go do autopsies. And those are very expensive. Those are one of the higher expenses of that. So as you look at having the forensic pathologist, yeah, it would be great, but it's not the most important thing. But it would be nice to be able to entertain to have that person here. So I don't sit on the Coroners Board. You know, I've been associated with the Coroners Association, and I know them all very well. So having this facility is one of the nicest in the whole state. It's right next to the police department. It's not a place that you want to go by any means. It's one place that you have to go when the time has. And so being able to facilitate that thing on a regular basis, it's the same amount of calls over the years is about 70 to 90 is how many people require a coroner to step in and help determine that cause in that manner and to move forward. So the expense to go, considerably more expense, has been every year added to the budget. And when I helped PJ and run the coroner's office, it was anywhere from $130,000 to $160,000, and it went up considerably every year, and it's up to over $450,000. And it's something that needs to be looked at. For the taxpayers have to be paying that.
And for our final rebuttal on this topic, 1 minute, Dr. Byrd.
Well, and I think I can testify that my budget is not, I wish I had $450,000. There's a few things that I would love to have. And so they've cut and cut and cut every year. But it's amazing, at the end of the year, we have money that's still left over, and guess what? It gets swept. So I don't know where the 400,000 came, but I'd sure like to have it, you know, because there's a lot of things that we still missing. But where we are today, we're pretty much, we can do everything that we need to do to meet the statutes, the standards, all across the country.
Mr. Sessions has chosen to use his 1 minute.
Yeah, on the budget, you know, you could look at it. It's increased considerably every year since he had been elected. And it doesn't show any sign of slowing down. To be able to want an X-ray machine and also a blood separator to determine levels of toxicity is something that requires hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then the maintenance and the upkeep, and to be certified and to be able to stand as in the court of law that you're certified to be able to do that. That's why we have professionals. That's why we have the medical community, and we utilize them as a source in what they do. So having all this stuff is not a necessity, and for a taxpayer, definitely it makes everything a little bit more, and it shouldn't be. So sensible.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. For our third topic for this debate, the coroner's primary concern is helping families deal with a terrible situation in their lives. And we'll go to Mr. Sessions first for 3 minutes.
It is. Everybody, if you've ever had to walk down that avenue, when the initial shock comes, I've been able to be a part of it for 30 years. And it's something that is the most dramatic that anybody will ever experience. And I feel that over my experience and training and the knowledge that I have, I try to represent in a very kind way. I try to respect every aspect of the deceased in doing my job, and as well as help the living walk through something that could be I don't know, present it in a way that you give them education on what's going to happen and what's going to take place and why you came up with those decisions, and to do it in a timely manner. So it's important that that you are understanding the roles of dealing with it my whole career. That's what I've done my whole life. So having the coroner's office as 20 years of my 30 years experience has been something that I just intertwine the both, because I take care of the dead all the same. And I run the office different than, I mean, they're too independent. That's why the funeral home takes care of it after we've determined what the cause and the manner. Having it away from the funeral home is such a wonderful thing. Over 70 years, I told you, it's been back and forth. It's been, what the heck's going on? Finally, it's in its own facility, and you can do your job, and then you can say, we're done. What would you like done? Let the people choose. Let the people choice. The body's not at the funeral home, and it's not, the morgue is at the funeral home. So feel like it's obligated and responsible. You take care of them, and you take care of your job. And to be able to sleep at night and have a clear conscience is so a key ingredient in life, to have peace and joy. I would bring a great presence to the office. I know I would. And I look forward to it. I'm in my career. I didn't, you know, it's not about money. I mean, Dr. Bird wanted to raise his salary by double this last time. It's like, that's not serving your community. You're wanting more. You're always wanting more. And I don't feel that that is. And that's really a strong reason, is it's never going to end. It's always going to keep going. And I feel that I can bring sense to it in a financial, fiscal responsibility. I've done the mass fatality plan. I exercised knowing and working with the people in the community to put something together. So I feel that I'm definitely the most qualified to be able to serve our county the next 4 years.
3 minutes, Dr. Bird.
Okay. One of the hardest things is when we get that call to go to a scene, and it's a death investigation. So let's not talk about me. Let's talk about my team. I have a stellar team made up of deputies. They're very compassionate, very warm, caring, but they're also investigators too. So when we go to a scene, yes, we know what our roles are, to find out what the cause is, why they passed away. But our main interaction is to that family that lost somebody. And the most important thing is, when it's all said and done, we're hoping that we can bring some closure to the family. Now, it might not be when we finish all our paperwork, we sign that death certificate, but we try to interact with that family to make sure that they're okay, and that our goal is to bring closure, because they have lost somebody.
You have 1:40 left.
Okay, so let me let me just reverse myself and go back to the budget thing. He keeps saying I have asked for a salary. You know, I wouldn't mind doing it for nothing, but you got to have a salary. But it's a little insulting, you know, for the salary. If you look up if you look at the salaries across the state, it's just like a jagged edge. Why does one county get more money? Why does one county get less money? You know, and the budget. Here's the thing: you build a house. Does that mean you're just going to walk in there and start living in the house? Well, you got to add things in there to make it functional. Functional. That's where we're at. We're at that functional level now, that we have got equipment and supplies in there. There's a few things that are missing, and you ask about the x-ray unit. I've been wanting the x-ray unit for 4 years, and it was on the sheet to have one. They even asked about, should we get an x-ray? I said yes. Now, I proposed to the county, I got the best deal in the world. $150,000 medical grade x-ray machine for $30,000. and I was turned down. So if I'm trying to waste your money, I'm not trying to waste your money. I'm trying to get the best facility up and running so that the next person coming in can take over after you elect me.
2 minutes, Mr. Sessions.
Okay. The X-ray machine, just not to hit it, but it's a continuous thing of, you know, being certified and trained to be able to operate the machine and have the right software continually. It's an expense continually going. We have a hospital. We have a radiology that can do that, and we've done that. You take it to them, and you work well with the hospital administration, support our community, and keep that funds there. You know, you're opening in something to where you want to try to do it all in-house, all yourself, and the next 4 years, you know, here's another corner, and then, my gosh, you have all this. Is he going to be as active using that? So being able to have the right understanding of how to approach it, I don't think you need to know the toxicology to be able to do that. There's several companies, and I know, and I work well with them to help determine levels of whatever we're looking for blood and vitreous and urine. So as you fulfill that, there's just I don't think that it's necessary at all in the office of having that expenditure. So.
3 minutes, Dr. Bird.
Okay, so I use the same toxicology, and here's the thing. There's a lot of people in this audience, they're business folks. So if you're working and you want proposals, what you do is you list 3 items. What's your number 1 item? What's your number 2 item? What's your number 3 item? Having another full-time staff was my number 1 item. Having that X-ray machine, I'd love to have that X-ray machine. Having that tox machine, yeah, of course I would like to. And it was pricey, but it wasn't a priority. My priority was to get one of my deputies a full-time. And I pretty much exchanged, if I had a choice, I would take the full-time position for my deputy, looking out for my staff. So, and talking about hospital, we were just up there yesterday. What were we doing? Taking x-rays. Why? Because we don't have an x-ray machine. But the reason we utilize the hospital is there's certain things that I need to find out about the body, like a projectile. Where is the projectile? Is it did it go through the body, or is it still in the body? So we got to go up there for visualization. Once we see the films, then we contact the pathologist and say we need to schedule an autopsy. So this is a medical, legal death investigation. This is what training does. It has you ask questions, go to the next level. Just don't stop and say, oh, this is too expensive. No. What did I say the theme was? You want to bring closure to the family. That's our goal. That's our mission.
One minute, Mr. Sessions.
Thank you. The X-ray machine, the blood draw, everything that pertains to wanting this thing to just keep going bigger and bigger. Sheridan County averages about 70 to 90. It's always kind of been that way. So as you keep spending more per case, if you look at it, it costs the taxpayer a considerable amount of money. So being able to take that body and do your thorough investigation of going to the hospital to get an x-ray or to draw blood or get whatever helps you best fulfill that is something that doesn't need to be in the in the coroner's office. It's a more expense that you have to have, and you know, I don't doubt it. You know, the people that work for them, I'm sure that they represent themselves the way that they do, that they want to represent themselves, and I truly believe that they would appreciate a breath of fresh air. So.
All right, and since we have some more time this evening, we're going to ask a fourth question. We'll be able to do that for the sheriff's debate also. All right, our fourth topic. Practical experience is more important than medical training for the coroner. And we'll begin with Dr. Bird for 3 minutes.
Practical experience, huh? Let's see. I've been doing this for 30 years plus. I have listened to all the experts plus. I can call them if I need advice. Of course, there's a generation that has passed away. I'm an expert in the field, yes. Otherwise, I must be an expert because I get these subpoenas to appear in court. And so on the opposing side, they want records. I don't give them a file. I give them a folder. It's a 6-part folder. And it has all the informatics in there, from antemortem, and that's the time they were living, postmortem, perimortem, around the time of death, toxicology, forensic pathology report, and any other pertinent information that might be pertinent to the case. So experience, yeah, I have the experience. I could spend all night and go through my resume, but I don't need to. You guys voted me in for this 4 years ago with the confidence. You handed me the helm with the confidence that I would run this office in the appropriate manner, and I have. We have a record to run on, and that's what I'm asking you about. Did we do our due diligence with you?
Practicality, you know, that it's, as a coroner, anybody can run every 4 years, you know. Having understanding and knowledge is a key to do this. It's not for everybody, you know. Not everybody wants to even look at this avenue. So it comes with a different vein of how you approach it. Having a wealth of knowledge of the anatomy is key. Understanding death, the signs, the symptoms, being able to best determine the cause and the manner, the approximate time the person passed by, you know, the conditions of the death of the body. I learned all of that in my experience and through the education that I've been given. So having a wealth of understanding is key to make you perform your job the best that you can, and to be able to talk to the other people on scene. As you look at certain conditions of the body, you can see that it may be a cardiac condition, it may have elevated blood, it may have a jugular vein disease. There's certain things that you look at, and if you talk to the law enforcement by the experience and the knowledge that you have, everybody grows from it. That's what's important. You're working well with one another. You're not setting out there to throw a strong foot that I'm the coroner and that this is how it's going to be ran. The coroner does have authority. And, you know, I heard I don't even know if it is, but, you know, the coroner can, of course, arrest the sheriff. And who would even approach a conversation leading in that, you know, you have that authority? It's just ridiculous. That's not how you approach anything. You have authority to do things, and you have the ability to subpoena certain things to help you in so many different ways that law enforcement doesn't have. So you work well with them to help subpoena to get the best answers in what you're doing. So being able to have that as a resource, having the knowledge to be able to do it, is something that I've done over the 30 and especially the 20 years associated with the coroner's office. And I've devoted my life to it, and I want to give back to the community. You know, I'm very grateful for all the families, the individuals that I've served over the time, and I'll show you the type of coroner and how this office is going to be ran. And I appreciate he did. He won and he ran. And he's not the right man for the job now. I feel that I am, and I would love your support by voting me in. Thank you.
2 minutes, Dr. Byrd.
Okay. I know we keep talking about expenses, but did you hear me in my introduction? I sit on the board of standard of coroners, okay? We make the rules, and the rules are you got to do toxicology. You got to do an exam. We just added fingerprints on there. You got to do DNA. Did you hear DNA tonight at all? That's a standard. That's a rule. That's a board rule. So we have rules. Okay, if you put a price on those items or rules, yeah, it gets a little expensive. Buy some DNA cards. They run about $500 for 20. It's mandatory that you do DNA on all your cases. It's a rule. It's the board rule.
Three minutes, Mr. Sessions.
Yeah, I agree that there's certain standards that you do when you investigate. You know, you determine, you know, the best that you can by sending all the fluids off and, you know, having a DNA card. You know, of course, that's kind of cool. That helps for genealogy and everything else down the road. So having that that's a good thing to have. That's a good thing to have for the families in the future. You have a bloodline, so it's not hugely expensive. That's a very minor part of what's being spent. But yeah, it's a good part to have with that. So running the coroner's office and sitting on boards and stuff is great. I'm not one that likes to put my name out in a big face. I just like to do what I've been asked to do. I'm grateful for a family that supports me in doing it. And you know, it's the best thing. I mean, of being able to have two separate entities over 70 years. I'm going to hit this again, that it's not associated with the funeral homes. The funeral home does its own entity. The coroner's office does its own entity, and let the people choose. Let them have a choice. They finally have a choice. They know that their body's not at the morgue, at the funeral homes anymore. And competition is great. And I am not out to put anybody out of business. Competition is healthy in every aspect of life. So for me to run as the coroner and to keep myself walking a straight line, that I am not going to be something that's going to call a family and persuade them to choose the service that I render on the other end. You won't see that. Go to the bank with that. I'm not that person. I've never been that person. I've never. There's so much anxiety that comes when you have to deal with this at the time of death. And to have somebody call you and cause more frustration or anxiety, it's like, oh man, you know, now the other. It's just, it's inappropriate and it's unprofessional. So as a professional, you keep those two entities separate and you run them separately. And I had to get that out there and run off suit of what the medical, but being a professional is who we all strive to be in every aspect. We're grateful for the professions that we choose, and how you perform and present yourself in that profession as a leader is really what affects how people look at you in that leadership. And working well with others is a key ingredient. And for the first and foremost, it's I lead with kindness. It's all about trying to make this experience as calmly and best that you can as an individual. And I know that I can bring that to the table, and with the utmost professionalism and education that I've been able to gain.
And for our final rebuttal, 1 minute, Dr. Byrd.
Okay, just a quick correction. Unfortunately, you have to know the statutes. So the coroner cannot arrest the sheriff. They took that off the books some like 40-some years ago. I get that asked that question many times. Well, you can arrest the sheriff. No, we cannot. If you read the state statute, the ones that get fire is now the governor. You have to go up the chain to the attorney general, and then he's the one that passes the information over to the governor to fire or remove an elected official. The coroner, I got my dad's handcuffs on my desk, but that's a momentum because he was United States Marshal, okay, chief of police. That's his career. There's no way or reason or statute that's going to make me arrest the sheriff. We're partners. We're supposed to be partners in this thing, not adversaries.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. That concludes our coroner's debate. All right, so in just a few minutes, we'll do the sheriff's debate. Who knew that a coroner's debate could be so much fun, right? All right, so we're going to do a quick straw poll, and we have a teller committee that's going to distribute the ballots. So it'll be just a few minutes. If you want to get yourself a glass of water or a cup of coffee, feel free to do so, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, if you could all take your seats, we'll get going with the sheriff's debate. If I could have the two candidates come forward. Okay, so now we're going to do the Sheridan County Sheriff's debate, and just a couple of quick reminders. Remember, I gave them 1 minute that they could use at any point during the whole debate. So one time through this entire debate, they can use 1 extra minute at any point during the debate. Again, nobody else has seen the topics except for me, and with that, we did a coin toss, and Mr. Fitzpatrick chose to speak second, so we'll begin with Sheriff Dominguez.
Are we doing the 1 minute intro then?
Okay, so as before, we're going to allow both candidates to, hold on here. We're going to allow both candidates 1 minute to introduce themselves. And we want you to answer the question, why are you running for office? So we'll begin with Sheriff Dominguez, 1 minute.
Well, good evening. Good evening. I'm Sheriff Levi Dominguez, and for 23 years, I've been blessed to work in public safety within law enforcement and fire and EMS. In 2022, after serving 4 years as undersheriff, I was elected sheriff of Sheridan County. I believe Sheridan County Sheriff's Office has delivered on what I set out to accomplish 4 years ago, and much more. Be active and approachable in the community, to find gaps to better serve our communities, build relationships with our community, organizations, and agencies to meet the law enforcement needs of our county, and train and develop our staff to ensure they're successful in their careers and successful in delivering top-notch law enforcement to all of Sheridan County. We're not done yet, and I'm certainly not done. The programs we have implemented and the partnerships we have strengthened are beginning to flourish, and I want to see them through the finish line and continue to develop and lead our staff and work alongside them to ensure we are providing the law enforcement services you all expect and deserve. I'd appreciate your vote on August 18th.
And 1 minute, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Hello, everybody. My name is Howie Fitzpatrick, and I am running for sheriff because I started in law enforcement. Well, when I was in the Marines, I was an MP in the Marines, and then I served with the Sheridan Police Department for almost 21 years. I retired for medical reasons, got those mostly taken care of, and so it's time to get back at it. To quote Dr. Bird, the mission's not over. So the reason that I'm running is when I started in law enforcement in 2001 here in Sheridan, there were 2 deputies at times covering the county. And there are still 2 deputies at times covering the county. This county is far too big to only have 2 deputies working. So I want to improve the amount of deputies that we have, improve the training, and improve the relationships that the sheriff's office has with other law enforcement agencies.
Okay, thank you. And for our first topic, we'll go to Sheriff Dominguez first, and that topic is increased transparency is critical to the running of the Sheridan County Sheriff's Department. 3 minutes.
Absolutely. Always increase transparency. Transparency with the public is so important. Being able to talk to our community, being able to talk with our community partners, our agencies that we work alongside, and the citizens that we serve is so important. So to have that transparency is the utmost, but it is so important that you all know what the sheriff's office is doing, what we plan on and doing, and what we continue to do. When we talk about transparency, I think that the sheriff's office, well, I know that the sheriff's office has been transparent over the 4 years that I've served as sheriff, and also the 4 years that I served as undersheriff. And since I've been with the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office since 2014, but it's so important to have that transparency. Things that we do at the sheriff's office currently to show that transparency within our own office and our staff is, I often get the opportunity to visit with our staff and get the opportunity to talk with them and explain why things that, decisions that are made within the office at administrative level, why those things or those decisions are being made, why some decisions can't be made, but also explain what's going on at the county level that may affect their job and kind of what their ability is to do within the sheriff's office. But overall, I think, and then providing anytime, I have an open door policy within the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office. Anybody, if they have any questions, and I'm sure many of you have reached out to me, I'm always available. You can send me an email. You can come by the office. I'm available. If you give me a call, I give you a call back, and that's so important. If you have questions about what we're doing at the Sheriff's Office, I'm always willing to talk to you about that. Different programs within that we provide through writing community perspective articles about what we're doing and the good work we're doing within Sheridan County, visiting on Public Pulse, on Sheridan Media, and all of those different things is just how we are transparent within the community.
3 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Well, I can't argue with that. Transparency is essential, and I think when taxpayers are paying your salary, that you have to be transparent. You also have to be very responsible with the funds that they provide you. As sheriff, I will have an absolute open door policy for staff and for the public, not just when it's convenient, not just when things are going well for me, but at all times. I think it's essential. What you see is what you get. I don't have anything to hide. I don't have any reasons for people to have to fill out FOIA requests to get copies of things that are public record. And I think that as an elected official, that is my job. I work for you. I wouldn't be working for myself. I don't work for the police department. I don't work for DCI. I don't work for any other agencies. I work for the citizens of Sheridan County if I'm elected your sheriff.
2 minutes, Mr. Dominguez, Sheriff Dominguez, excuse me.
You don't have to call me Sheriff Dominguez. Really, everybody knows me as Levi. That's perfectly fine. When we talk about transparency and how we again, open door policy. I don't know if those comments were I'm always available, not when it's convenient, not when it's, during the Elk Fire, when it was, when I was working 30 straight days with 16 to 18 hour days, people were still calling me and I was still reaching out to them in those different things. Anytime we've had a major incident, I'm always reaching out to the folks and always available. And so I think it's important to know that's how I've always ran the office, and that's how I'll continue to run the office.
3 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Just to clarify, that's not a personal attack. I don't work for the sheriff's office, so I don't know what your policy is. I don't know how you run things down there. But I know how I would run things, and that's all I was trying to say with that.
And our final rebuttal on this topic, 1 minute. Okay, all right. So let's move to our second topic for tonight's debate. This might go faster than we thought.
Go for questions.
It means that we get to ask you more questions, is what that means. All right, this one ought to be a good one. And we'll begin with Mr. Fitzpatrick. Health care of prisoners is not the role of government. 3 minutes.
I believe that's absolutely correct. Our state statute requires that we take care of medical needs for our prisoners if they are in our custody and are injured during the arrest, provided that is not due to torturous, I believe the words are torturous or basically malfeasance on the officer's part or the deputy's part. And then also that the injuries are not occurred or incurred during the act of resisting arrest. So we will take care of medical expenses that occur during those incidents. and only those incidents during the arrest and something that happens in the jail, as long as it's not self-inflicted, which is also part of the state statute, and that it's also the only time that it is required is during malfeasance on the sheriff's part or the deputy's part, or again if they get a communicable disease or something like that while they're in custody.
3 minutes, Levi.
It is essential that the office of the sheriff and the sheriff provides medical care to inmates within the detention center. There's been case law on that at the state level and at the federal level. Wyoming Statute 186303 states the sheriff shall arrange for medical care reasonably required by prisoners. That word shall means is mandatory legal duty, not optional. And I know there's some vagueness in that statute when you talk about it, but medical care is legal responsibility of the sheriff and the county. There's been lawsuits that we've seen even in our state with Fremont County, where the county's duty goes, and what that came out, and some case law came out in that. Basically, it was the Board of County Commissioners of Fremont County versus Memorial Hospital of Natrona County, and that was back in 1984, and that said the county's duty goes beyond emergency treatment. Inmates are entitled to necessary medical care, not just stabilization. Medical treatment cannot be denied because an inmate cannot pay. The U.S. Constitution, is stated the same thing with some cases. Some major Supreme Court cases, Estelle versus Gamble, established a constitutional right to medical care in detention facilities, and they talked about deliberate indifference to serious medical needs. That violates the Eighth Amendment. So detention centers, you can't refuse necessary medical treatment. That's one of those. You can't unreasonably delay treatment. You can't intentionally interfere with prescribed care. And so that becomes an issue when you look at that. I guess at the end of the day, Wyoming law requires sheriffs to provide necessary inmate medical care. The U.S. Constitution also requires adequate medical care for incarcerated people. Counties and jail officials and sheriffs can be held legally liable when they knowingly fail to provide necessary medical care. These are just numerous case laws that we've seen. And so I know within the state statute it's vague, but we've seen jails throughout our state get tied up in millions of dollars of lawsuits for that. So when I took office, we looked at our medical care and everything and our healthcare provider, and we were able to save, I believe the county, it was just under $200,000 by switching a healthcare provider, and we provide really good care to our inmates. We've reduced the cost. We've reduced the unnecessary transports to the emergency room. We've reduced the strain on our local hospital by taking those inmates up to the ER numerous times over and over and over by having a great medical team within our detention center. And those are the things that we need to continue to look and do. And so it is essential.
2 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
I'm not saying to deny any medical care. I'm saying that the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for it. So if somebody is arrested and they're diabetic, the county shouldn't foot the bill for insulin if they're in the jail for 6 months. The taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for that. That's not something that they incurred during their arrest. That's not something that occurred in the jail. That's something that they should be provided, or that they should absolutely have the medical care, but you don't need to pay for it.
3 minutes, Levi.
Yeah, I understand that point, and that's something hard to swallow. But case law says that if they're in our facility, they cannot get worse. Their medical condition cannot deteriorate, and that if we allow them to deteriorate, so if we say you can't pay for it because you're in the jail, you don't get your insulin. That is a huge liability that's going to be on the county, millions of dollars of lawsuits again. And so it's necessary that we have to look at that. That's at the end, that's part of running a jail. That's part of what the sheriff is responsible as statutory duties, is to run a jail in that sense. Many of you may not know this because I think I was having a conversation, but when somebody's incarcerated, all of their benefits, whether it's health insurance, all of those Social Security, all of that stops. So they don't get those benefits, and so being able to provide, medical care. I'm not saying that. We certainly, the sheriff's office looks, we allow families and their ability to come in, and if they have the medicine to do so, we allow them to bring that into the jail, and we go through it with our medical staff, so that way we can provide them their own medications. We allow them to do that stuff, but if they don't have it and they run out and they don't have a means to get it, we have to ensure that they continue to receive that treatment.
1 minute, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
State statute also provides that the healthcare provider is the one that should be seeking the payment for those services. It should not fall directly and automatically onto the taxpayers. They have to go through the same legal means. The health provider does, the same as if you and I go to the doctor and refuse to pay a bill. They have to go through means to collect that money. They shouldn't just automatically go to the Board of County Commissioners to obtain those funds.
Okay, so for our third topic, I think. Third topic. See, you guys are fast at this. Oh, yeah, so we have results from our first straw poll. And Dr. Bird won the straw poll for the coroner's debate.
Can I use my 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay. So doing what the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office is doing is not something new. All 23 sheriffs in Wyoming are doing and providing the level of medical care that we are, and actually are providing a lot more. When we switched medical providers, we're paying now on average $18 a day per inmate on medical care. Many counties in Wyoming are upwards from anywhere from $21 to $45 to $50 per day per inmate. So when you look at what we're doing and trying to be fiscally responsible and ensuring that we don't get the county in millions of dollar lawsuits, I think we're doing a great job.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to the third topic. Ooh, this one's going to be fun. All illegal aliens should be detained by the sheriff in accordance with federal law. And we'll begin with Levi for 3 minutes.
When we talk about immigration enforcement, we have to work, and I've talked about this 4 years ago when I ran for sheriff, that the office of the sheriff and the sheriff's office and its deputies have to work within the confines of state statute and within its jurisdiction. In order to go out, in order for the sheriff's office to take an illegal immigrant into custody, they have to commit a crime in Sheridan County. That is where we are with our jurisdiction. And so in order to, and we take that very seriously. I think all Sheridan County law enforcement agencies in Sheridan County do a tremendous job in investigating crimes committed in Sheridan County. And we look at those, and when I pull the numbers and we look at the numbers of that, approximately 1% of all crimes committed in Sheridan County over the last 4 years were crimes committed by illegal aliens. And we've enforced those. We've taken those individuals into custody. We've worked with ICE. We have a phone call with ICE every single morning at 8 o'clock in the morning to see where we're at, if there's anybody within our jail that is an illegal immigrant in which they put a detainer on them. And once they're finished adjudicated in our jail, we release them to ICE. And not since I've been sheriff has one illegal immigrant who's committed a crime in Sheridan County been released back into the community. They have gone into the custody of ICE after they're adjudicated. So that means that 99% of all the other crimes committed in Sheridan County, whether it's sex assaults, aggravated assaults, burglaries, you name it, thefts, DUIs, 99% of those crimes of those individuals being booked in our facility, those are being committed by Sheridan County residents, Wyoming residents, U.S. citizens, and I will always continue, if there is an illegal immigrant that comes into our custody, we will work with ICE to ensure that is being taken care of. If we see that number go up, if we start seeing 1% of the crimes being committed are being committed by illegal immigrants, and they're going up to 10% or 20%, we've got to pivot. We've got to do something different, because I don't want Sheridan County to be California or Washington or Colorado or any other state that allows that to happen. And we won't allow it to happen here in Sheridan County as well.
3 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. We have to follow state statute. Our statute, our statutory authority is only good for Wyoming law. It's not good for federal law. We can't enforce federal state statutes. That being said, I think that if that's the case, ICE does need to be notified for every illegal immigrant or potentially illegal immigrant, because we need to be able to identify and deport those people regardless of what crimes they may have committed. If they've committed a crime in the state of Wyoming, they get incarcerated, and the proper authorities, the federal authorities, need to be notified. They do need to be deported. I'm sorry, there are probably some fantastic immigrants. I know there's some fantastic illegal immigrants, but the key word is illegal. So the ICE does need to be notified anytime somebody is suspected.
2 minutes, Levi.
No, Howie's absolutely correct, and I think the sheriff's office has done that. Anytime we've gotten reports, or our local police department, well, I'm not going to speak on behalf of Chief Kultiska and the police department, but I think local law enforcement has done a great job. If we get those reports and they're outside the parameters of our jurisdiction, statutory obligation or authority that we can provide, we're reaching out to ICE. We're actually, looking at different things that we can do, and if we see that there's a credible or validated, complaint, ICE, we're communicating with them so that way it can be handled the right way.
1 minute, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Okay. So let's move on to our fourth topic. At this rate, guys, we'll get to do an extra one. All right, our fourth topic right up my alley here. So the Sheriff's Department has an obligation to protect citizens' Second Amendment rights. And we'll begin with Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Well, I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment, and I believe, as I stated before, that the sheriff works for the citizens of Sheridan County and upholds the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Wyoming. Both constitutions allow people to be armed. The right to bear arms is essential. It's essential in a free and democratic state. It's essential to not only hunting or sport, but in defense of a tyrannical government. And I do absolutely 100% believe that the sheriff's office needs to uphold and enforce the Second Amendment.
3 minutes, Levi.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Howie. I am a big opponent of the Second Amendment, or a proponent. Sorry, I said opponent. Sorry, I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment. And again, it's in our Wyoming Constitution, in our U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 24 of the Wyoming Constitution states that the right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be denied. And I think no law enforcement agency is doing that whatsoever. I think we all defend the Second Amendment, and we all are very active and pro Second Amendment. I'm with that.
2 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
My favorite part of federal gun laws is that they're federal, and I can't enforce federal gun laws anyway.
3 minutes, Levi.
Oh, they shut me off. I see how that goes. You want me to be done? I'm with that. And I think Wyoming has a very great second, and Howie hit it right on the nail on the head when he talks about federal gun laws. And I think when you look at that Wyoming state statute, we have, Wyoming has one of the best Second Amendment preservation acts, right? SAPA bill in place in 914-203, prohibiting the enforcement of federal regulation of firearms, fire accessories, magazines, and ammunition. And so it prohibits law enforcement, local law enforcement, Wyoming law enforcement, to enforce, administer, or cooperate with any unconstitutional act if the federal government comes in and wants to enforce federal gun laws.
And 1 minute, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Okay. Fair enough. Well, we got one topic left, guys. I say, why don't we just go ahead and do it? So the last topic, in the bucket anyway, the Sheriff's Department is equipped to deal with terrorism. And we'll begin with Levi for 3 minutes.
I think the sheriff's office is equipped as best as we can for such a small agency. I call the sheriff's office, we're a tweener. We're a tweener office because we're not as large as some of the sheriff's office throughout Wyoming that have numerous staff that can be doing different things. But we're also not small enough that where we have individuals that can go out and do different things. So our support staff is minimal, but we work well together with our Sheridan County Emergency Management Coordinator, Jesse Ludekhaus, and he kind of heads up some of that, keeping eyes on terrorism. We work well with our other law enforcement partners throughout Wyoming, our federal partners throughout Wyoming and our nation to ensure that when we are seeing any type of threat that's terrorism, that we have the resources right at a phone call away to help manage and mitigate that.
3 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
I think I would have to disagree. I don't think that the sheriff's office is ready for a terrorist type of an attack, simply because of staffing issues. The sheriff's office is short, I believe, 3 positions right now, and I can only imagine how tired the current deputies are, having to cover extra shifts because they just don't have the manpower right now to field a full-scale incident like that.
2 minutes, Levi.
Yeah, and maybe my words were taken out of that. I know that the sheriff's office isn't fully equipped to handle something like this on our own, but what we have is we have resources. We're the state of Wyoming. We reach out and ask for help, and that's what we do when we need help. Talked a little bit about staffing. And when we talk about staffing, yeah, we're short-staffed. We've done some great things throughout the years to try to increase our retention. I think prior to my predecessor, I think our retention levels are up by 7%. When we look at that, we've increased our starting salary wage for our patrol deputies, our sworn staff, our patrol deputies, and our detention deputies. Just recently, the county commissioners were very graceful because they saw that our staffing shortages were well below what other were low, but that what our starting wage for deputies with no experience as a patrol officer with the Sheridan Police Department was anywhere from $13,000 to $14,000 less a year. How can we recruit, how can we recruit qualified candidates with that type of thing, with that type of salary? And so, again, we've increased that. We're comparable now. We're within a couple $1,000s a year difference than from what we've been, actually having to compete with the police department, Johnson County Sheriff's Office, Campbell County Sheriff's Office, the VA, Wyoming Highway Patrol. And over the last 4 years, I have advocated for our staff and wages. And in 4 years, our sworn staff has seen a 33.8% increase in wage, and our civilian staff has seen a 20.8% increase in wage. And you might think like that's a lot, but we were so far behind. And now we're right where we can, and we're getting some great quality applicants right now that's going to fill those positions.
All right. 3 minutes, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
When I worked for the police department, we had a change of staff. Our chief, who everybody enjoyed working with, left, and we got in a new chief that a lot of people did not enjoy working for. And we lost 10 officers. A lot of them went over to the sheriff's office for a pay cut. Okay? Not for a pay raise, for a pay cut because of leadership. Okay? Most law enforcement officers don't get into this job for a glorious paycheck. It's nice to be paid, and it's nice to be paid well and make a decent living, but law enforcement officers are a different breed of people. They are the people who feel like they can solve the problem that you cannot solve. They are there because there is something in your life that has taken place that you can no longer handle, and you've reached out for help, and they believe that they are the people that can help you with that problem. And that is not because of the paycheck. It's because they love to help people. And so people aren't quitting or not applying because of wages. it's for other reasons.
And for 1 minute, Levi.
You know, he talked about some of those law enforcement officers that came over to the police department, and many of those officers are still deputies with the sheriff's office. They've enjoyed working for the sheriff's office, and they've stuck it out. And while they've watched other law enforcement agencies continue to get paid more and more and more, they've continued to dedicate their lives and their service to all of you, to Sheridan County. And they do it because they love working for the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office. And you're right, it's not all about the paycheck, but at some point, something's going to break. And we were getting to that point.
Okay, that concludes our sheriff's debate. Please give them all a hand. And don't go anywhere because we've got a straw poll to do. So we'll take a few minutes, and our teller committee will hand out the ballots, and we'll do a quick straw poll and find out who won this one. So back in just a few minutes. All right, if I could have your attention, we have the results from our straw poll for the Sheridan County Sheriff's debate, and it was won by Howie Fitzpatrick. Thank you all for coming this evening. Tomorrow we have our legislative debates, and so that'll be all of the legislative districts, the House and the Senate. It's going to be a good evening, so make sure that you don't miss that one. And if I could, before you leave, let me just say that I was very impressed with all the candidates. I thought that we kept all the punches above the belts. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you all tomorrow.